Back on Christmas, we ended up putting up a video talking about what I thought was 3 of my favorite classes that I wanted to recommend to you guys. Whether you were somebody that played the game from launch or if you were somebody picking up the game for the first time that day, it was something that was supposed to be like an all-inclusive sort of thing across the board, a couple of different variations of playstyle, and if you wanted to try them out, I thought they'd work out nicely in your favor. You guys seemed really open and receptive to that, so I figured, you know what, maybe we should do it like this more often. We should give you guys some class setups that I'm rocking instead of just one and giving you guys a massive breakdown on everything and why and giving you guys some multiple gameplays and everything like that. Instead, let's break it up a little bit more into 3 classes a little bit more often. So with that said, I want to give you guys 3 more awesome classes that I think you guys definitely will enjoy, and going forward we might do more of them like this, in which they're just class setups that I've been using a lot, rocking daily within World War II and absolutely loving, that I want to share. So these ones I think you can absolutely benefit from, but if you guys want to tweak them in any way, shape, or form, feel free to. It's just a little bit of a recommendation to get the class setup out there and the basic gist of it. But these weapons today we're going to be talking about are once again across the board in terms of 3 different classifications, one being a rifle, one being an LMG, and one being an SMG. So if you guys want to play around with any of these playstyles, once again, I think it is a great option here for these. So let's jump in right with our first class setup here. This is probably one of my favorite weapons since, I don't know, right about a couple of weeks after launch or so, but it's something that I use on the daily and it's so good. And if you still need to do challenges for it in terms of the camo challenges for headshots, I think that this might actually be one of the easiest. Because to me, it's a headshot machine. It just snaps. The recoil actually really helps you get those headshots because it has a vertical kick and almost only vertical. But that is the M1941 rifle, the default base rifle within the Create a Class system, and it's something that works very well with infantry, especially if your infantry division is ranked up. And as with these other ones, it definitely works in your favor more so to have these ranked up in the sense of the divisions, because they offer you more perks on top of what just you end up using with, say, a basic training. But I rocked the M1941 with the infantry, put it there in its natural home for the extra mags and the faster strafing movement, which to me is something that is beneficial. I love having ammo. I plan to stay alive longer. Sometimes it doesn't happen as such, but I plan to stay alive as long as possible, so having those extra magazines really does allow me to afford a different basic training, say, other than forage. And faster strafing movement, well, aiming down sight and always having that mobility is absolutely key. You can pre-aim corners, you can get your gun up, you can strafe back and forth if somebody is trying to shoot at you, which throws off their aim drastically. But infantry, I think, is the best class setup here with this. I was actually using it a little bit on expeditionary because I was trying to rank up expeditionary and armored to finish off the prestigious so I can start going for V2 rockets and stuff, because admittedly, I'm way behind schedule on that, and I did like having the flash grenades that I could end up using with that, but if I had the choice, I'd still put infantry over top of that. But on the M1941, I rock 4 attachments that gives away our basic training here of primed, as well as the extra attachment slot we get with infantry division, that being quick draw, steady aim, extended mags, and high caliber. Now, quick draw is something that I think works very well with this weapon. Usually the aim down sight time for rifles is a little bit slower compared to SMGs, but with quick draw, it brings it right up in line with the snap of that, and it's incredibly fast and incredibly useful. Steady aim is an attachment that I think works incredibly well with the M1941 because it doesn't have the greatest hip fire spread, and a lot of the times you can end up rounding a corner, and sometimes you don't want to be pre-aiming because that might actually throw your aim off too much, but that decreased hip fire spread, which allows you to have more precise accuracy while hip firing, it's actually incredibly useful, especially in close quarters with the M1941. Extended mags is something that I think is very much needed as well with this one, because the fire rate is relatively high for a rifle and the magazine capacity is relatively low for a rifle once again. So the trade-off is kind of a no-brainer in my opinion, in which just adding that extended mags makes it a more viable option. You don't have to reload every 2 kills you get. The final thing that I run is probably the most important thing here to me with this, that being high caliber, which increases headshot lethality. And as we mentioned many times before, it makes it almost a guaranteed 2-shot if you end up getting a headshot at any point in time, at almost any range. Now, as we mentioned, I think the M1941 is a headshot machine. If you can snap to an enemy, chances are, even if you hit chest and above, that recoil will kick up enough that you have either close to a headshot or a headshot every single time, and with high caliber, that just helps to get that kill so much more faster. Now again, we gave away that primed was that basic training that we rock here, and that's totally cool with me. I usually run primed for the extra attachment and the extra flinch assist, but then also we run the secondary of the PO8 and the frag grenade to round out that class setup. Now the second class setup we're going to be talking about here today is actually one that I have recently been using since probably about the buff that it got. I think it was late December that was part of that update, but this being the Lewis. I've had a lot of fun with this thing recently, and I am not an LMG guy by any means, so that says a lot in my books to the fact that it is something that is mobile, it's something that is easy to use and absolutely destroy with, and if there's any weapon that I'd say go out of your comfort zone to give this a shot, it'd be this one. It'd be the Lewis by far. But that said, for the Lewis, I rock Armor Division, though I played around a lot with it previously in Infantry for extra mags and strafing speed, but as of recently, I was trying to rank up once again my Armored and Expeditionary Divisions so I could finally prestige those, and so having it in that a lot of positions where Armored complements LMGs tremendously, this is a fantastic class setup, and especially if you're playing War, because you can escort the tank, you can do a ton of damage, and you still have that extra resistance to grenades at that point. So that said, on the Lewis itself, I rock Quick Draw, Grip, and Rapid Fire. I think all three are very much so a necessity on this weapon, and I don't know if I'd toss anything out here for, say, an extended mags. I'm okay without it. But that said, I think that these are really prominent and important pieces to this class setup. The Quick Draw, of course, allows you to have that ADS speed that is rather quicker, and LMGs primarily don't have the fastest ADS times in general terms. So being able to quicken that up a little bit is definitely incredibly important, especially if you're playing it with a run and gun mentality, something that I don't necessarily get up as aggressive as I would with an SMG, but I do push the boundaries a little bit compared to what I'd be playing almost as a middle ground between rifle play and then also SMG play with this, which is really weird. But on top of it, I also rock the Grip, which decreases recoil a little bit more, and after the buff to this, we ended up getting a recoil decrease in the Lewis in late December once again. So with Grip, it is literally a laser pointer. It's a laser shooter, and this thing with the damage of an LMG is insane. So throw on Rapid Fire to get rid of the final probably crutch of this weapon, that being the relatively slow fire rate compared to other weaponry, not necessarily the other LMGs, but you bring that fire rate up to something that is in line almost with a slower firing rifle, and you got a monster. You got an absolute beast on your hands that I think will decimate any opponent you go up against. Now, of course, we once again gave away that primed is our basic training, which is nice for flinch reduction, of course, that extra added attachment, but if you end up having this rocking with infantry for that movement speed to maybe say counter a little bit of what ends up happening with the heavy movements of the LMGs naturally, primed isn't something you need to necessarily use, and hustle, I'd say, probably is a nice recommendation outside of that. But that said, outside of these, I end up rocking the PO8 and the frag grenade on this as well. Just kind of the staple thing here that I use on the secondary and lethals, just to try and chuck a grenade into an area if I know somebody's there, and I don't really use the secondaries all that much, so it's kind of just there for me. Now, the third and final class setup I want to give you guys is an SMG class setup for those guys that like to run and gun, this being the PPSH. And surprisingly, I don't think that I've talked about the PPSH in terms of class setups or anything like that since the beta, in which that's been a long time. There's been some adjustments made to the PPSH. It is still kind of a meta weapon, but maybe not as much so anymore. I don't know. I don't run into as many people using it as I used to, but maybe that's just me. But nonetheless, I end up rocking the Airborne Division with this one so that you can get that quicker movement, that quicker mantling speed, so it's a truly mobile weapon that you can really run and gun with. But I use the PPSH, and just for fun, I use a little bit of a variance. I use the Thrive now, although in the background gameplay, it's the Iron Curtain. Just kind of a new toy mentality because I've recently got the Thrive from Armory credits, but I digress. On the PPSH, I end up rocking Quick Draw and Extended Mags. We don't use primed on this one, and to me, that's completely okay. I don't need primed for this class setup. I just need two things in particular. Once again, something that will allow me to get my weapon up as fast as possible, and those sprint out times are a little bit broken. Well, actually, a lot of it broken, and the Quick Draw is kind of bugged whenever you're still sprinting. Whenever you're not sprinting, it still helps out tremendously. So I'll rock Quick Draw on that one, but also Extended Mags is something that I put on the PPSH, and though you don't get as much ammo as previous years and PPSH versions within those titles, it is something that still helps out tremendously because the fire rate is still relatively high, and so burning through that ammo is something that if I can afford not to reload every 5 seconds, I'm totally cool cool with doing that. So also, not to mention, you get a little bit more extra ammo in your reserve because of the way the ammunition works out for each magazine. But that said, on top of that, we'll also be rocking Hustle, which once again, we don't rock primed on this one. Hustle, I think, is incredibly useful because I'm trying to run and gun. I want to be able to be as mobile as possible. I don't want to have to slow down, so I can reload on the go while sprinting, and also that faster reload is definitely nice also. And finally, to round out this final class setup, in the gameplay in the background was rocking the machine pistol, but again, I don't really ever use the secondaries all that much. I primarily just stick to my primary weapon with each class setup, so it's kind of there if I need it, but again, it's not necessarily dependent or a key portion of that class setup. It kind of just comes down to what rank I am at the time, if I have the machine pistol unlocked, or if I don't, if I rock the P08, or if I use the machine pistol. But then again, I throw a frag grenade on here so that I can again just chuck a grenade, and if I know somebody's in an area, I can flush them out, maybe even get a kill or two out of it. But nonetheless, that is going to round out the PPSH class setup here and round out our 3 class setups that I think you guys absolutely can dominate with. So that said, give these classes a try. Truly, I think that these will help you out, and it's something that I've been playing with all of these as of recently, been loving every single one. Some more so than others, and of course some longer than others. But that said, I'm gonna keep you guys up to date with all this kind of stuff here. If I find some class setups that I really enjoy, I'll try and bundle them together a little bit more here. I think I'm enjoying this sort of format, but that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. If you guys try these out for yourselves, feel free to tweet me or comment your results down there in the comment section down below. Love to get your feedback on these because, again, I love these class setups and I think you guys will as well, but I'd love to get your actual input here on them. So that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding Call of Duty World War II. Best class setups like these, tips, tricks, news, information, leaks, breakdowns, showcases, all that good stuff. We got you covered here up on the channel, so if any of that interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you do not miss a single thing. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected with me outside of YouTube, but practically live on Twitter. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. But all that said, now I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.